Wow, it's my birthday! So what should I do for today? I know, I'll make a YouTube channel about games and movies! Yeah. Hello people of the internet, my name is Gabriel Manzano and welcome to Gatman's Corner. This show is going to be a way for me to channel a ton of ideas that I have floating around in my head about great games, movies, and really any art form imaginable. I really want to keep a sense of the community, so please guys, leave a comment in the section below, and please remember that I'm only human and my opinion may be different to yours. Now, having said all of that, let's dive into my first review of Metal Gear Solid.
The Metal Gear series is the love child of Hideo Kojima, who one day after playing with Legos decided to mix James Bond 2001: A Space Odyssey, a love for Godzilla films, and Japanese culture into a game of pure epic proportions. To give a little history, the original Metal Gear was released for the MSX2 in 1987. The game followed up Solid Snake's struggles against a fortified outer heaven and the destruction of the original Metal Gear.
Spoilers!
At the end of the first game, it is revealed that Big Boss, Snake's commanding officer, is in fact the head of Outer Heaven. Big Boss then escapes and a sequel is born. In this game, now known as Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, Snake must infiltrate Zanzibar Island, a heavily defended territory located in Central Asia, to rescue a kidnapped scientist and destroy the new and improved Metal Gear D. At the end of the game, Snake faces the most revered member of Foxhound, Gray Fox. Snake then foils the plans of Big Boss and leaves his former commander burning to death. The story in Metal Gear Solid takes place 8 years after the events of the original games.
The nuclear weapons disposal facility on Shadow Moses Island in Alaska's Fox Archipelago was attacked and captured by Next Generation Special Forces, being led by members of Foxhound. They're demanding that the government turn over the remains of Big Boss, and they say that if their demands are not met within 24 hours, they'll launch a nuclear weapon. You'll have 2 mission objectives. First, you're to rescue DARPA Chief Donald Anderson and the President of ArmsTech, Kenneth Baker. Both are being held as hostages. Secondly, you're to investigate whether or not the terrorists have the ability to make a nuclear strike and stop them if they do.
After this amazing intro, the stakes are set. An atomic weapon may be launched and it can mean the start of a nuclear war that could potentially destroy all of humanity as we know it. You play as Solid Snake, the ultimate soldier, a selfless man with deep concentration and determination to fulfill his mission no matter what. You are juxtaposed to Liquid Snake, the polar opposite of you who happens to be an incredibly selfish man. In the end, he acknowledges his fate through his genes and not through his own free will.
It's fate. All living things are born for the sole purpose of passing on their parents' genes. That's why I'll follow what my genes tell me. And then I'm going to go beyond, in order to break the curse of my heritage. And to do that, first, I will kill you.
Okay guys, I'm sorry if I begin to rave on and on about how great this game is, but this is one of my absolute favorite games of all time, so take it easy on me. Let's just start talking about the flaws in order to even things out. For starters, this is a very unbalanced game in some senses. The story is deeply scripted and well thought out, but the gameplay lacks sometimes. In some ways, this game can be called the complete opposite of Super Mario Bros., a game that concentrates mostly on gameplay and very little on the story. Cutscenes tend to go on, and the game doesn't allow you to pause them. I can't tell you how many times I've had to go to the bathroom and I can't because the game doesn't allow me to pause the fucking cutscene. Something that really got on my nerves was the fact that you couldn't equip the level keycards at all time, and you had to select them specifically to go through a freaking door. Now, the control scheme. Oh my god, how I hate this control scheme. The action button is placed specifically in the same place as the punch button, which gives you a very confusing gameplay in some sections. Come on, click. Okay, let's click. Level keycard. The keycard. Come on, click. Come on. There we go. The first person view is located on the triangle of all places, meaning that you can never shoot in first person cam except for the game's final scene in which you absolutely need to do so. No kidding, the first time I played through this game, I died about 15 times in this same scene because I didn't know this. The controller has these two shiny R1 and L1 buttons that you almost never use, and the developers didn't think that maybe you could use one of those for a first person camera. Although I have to give them credit because they fixed all of these bugs for the next games in the series. Also, there will be backtracking, a lot of backtracking. There's a scene in the middle of the game in which you have to go back to get a sniper rifle. You have to go all the way back to the beginning of the game to do so. There are a couple of things that if you forgot to do once in the game, you're basically fucked. There's this one scene that you have to hit Meryl in order to make a dog pee on your cardboard box. If you don't do this, you have to go to the cave every time, getting a little damage from the dogs, as it is impossible to avoid them. For you PSN users out there are a couple of things that ruin the illusion of the game nowadays. There's a section of the game that you have to look on the back of your CD case. My personal copy of Metal Gear Solid is a digital copy on PSN. On my first playthrough, I had no clue on how to get the codec number from Meryl. I spent a good 2 hours just looking around in the game before I actually decided to go to my computer and see a walkthrough and find out Meryl's codec number.
Okay guys, please don't hate me because of the things I just said. These are just real flaws of the game and they have to be acknowledged. Let's move on to the good stuff about the game.
For the most part, the gameplay turns out to be ingenious and revolutionary. The game has an amazing 3D Metroidvania style. It is an RPG in which the world opens up to you as you progress levels. This is very similar to that of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. In that game, at first you can't enter all the areas. However, later on in the game, you get a double jump that allows you to get items you couldn't get before and enter new areas. In Metal Gear Solid, you get level keycards. These allow you to revisit areas and get items you couldn't before. Hideo Kojima clearly had some influence from Castlevania. In the game, he even included a couple of references.
You like Castlevania, don't you?
Have at you, Snake!
Some small details of the gameplay are just fantastic. There's a scene, for example, that Psycho Mantis is trying to mess with your head, and when you try to go to first person view, it goes to Meryl's eyes with Mantis's goggles. There are so many Easter eggs in the game that I could go on and on. Did You Know Gaming made this awesome video series featuring Kadikarus in which they rounded up all the Easter eggs in the game. I'll give you guys a video link below if you're interested in that. The game also forces you to think all the time. It wants you to figure things out by yourself and not have everything handed to you. If you call the Colonel in Psycho Mantis' boss battle, he'll give you slight hints on how to defeat him. After about the 5th time you call him, he outright breaks the 4th wall and tells you to plug your controller into the 2nd port.
I've got it! Use the controller port. Plug your controller into controller port 2. If you do that, he won't be able to read your mind.
Now, the boss battles are my favorite out of any game I've ever played, and that's including you, Shadow of the Colossus. The pacing is just perfect. The bosses always have moments of introduction before their battle, and you generally meet more than once with them. The objects that you need to beat the bosses are located in places that are hard to reach during the battle. This compels you to have very precise moves and not to waste your ammunitions. My favorite boss battle has to be the one with Metal Gear Rex. There is just such an epic feel about taking down a 50-foot robot while hearing scenes such as this one.
Skeleton of yours. Snake! Are you just going to sit by and watch him die?
A cornered fox is more dangerous than a jackal. Destroy the radome.
My least favorite is the second one with Vulcan Raven. He is also, in my opinion, the most underdeveloped character in the whole game. However, all of the boss battles in the game are really amazing, and you have to experience them firsthand to really get what I'm saying. With all of them, you really get a sense that you don't hate the characters you're fighting. It's rather that they're just at the opposing side and you need to fight them because that's your mission. The only exception to this is Liquid Snake, who by the end you just want to beat that motherfucker down. The torture scenes offer some of the most challenging quick-time events that I've ever had to face. The Doctor's controller vibration trick doesn't help one bit either. Talk about false advertising. The ranking system at the end of the game is also great. Although I haven't been able to get the Big Boss rank, I will definitely try to do it and post it in the near future. There are two things that sum up the atmosphere of this game: the setting and the music. Shadow Moses Island is one of the settings that will stick in your mind. The gray tones, the beautiful metallic background of the warehouse. Yes, it is beautiful. Everything around in the environment is always tied to the idea of metal, something that is synthetic. Everything in the story leaves you feeling as if you're trapped in this environment. Scenes such as finding a bloody hallway with no explanation whatsoever leave you feeling as if things are happening in the game while you're not watching. This is truly an example of game immersion. Another great example of this is with the snowfield. At the beginning of the game, there aren't any surveillance cameras when you first enter it. However, after fighting Psycho Mantis, the snowfield will now have a couple of cameras with an incredibly long field of vision. This strategy of game immersion is similar to that of games such as Pokemon. Your rivals and all the people around you are progressing as you're not watching them. The fact that a game has a world that changes and moves like the real world eliminates the illusion of something that is designed by someone. It makes the world appear more organic, real. When the fourth wall is then broken, it is even more amusing for the player who is completely immersed. The music goes from tense and pressurous to being absolutely enchanting. It tends to feature these metallic sounds, symbols, things that blend you in this environment perfectly and make you feel as if you're completely enwrapped in this world. The game always draws you back to the idea that you're trapped in a world that is synthetic. It is inorganic, created by someone. If you really think about it, this is a motif in the game as well. Snake himself is also a synthetic creation. He was genetically designed for the field of battle. The music always reminds you of the fact that you're trapped in this synthetic world. It counterpoints the metallic sounds with these beautiful vocal lines. This functions as a thematic element. It tells the player that although he is trapped in this world, there are still some things that are worth fighting for. I really gotta mention that alert music. By the middle of the alert status, you just want the soldiers to kill you, but the thing is that the song keeps you so much on your toes that it makes you want to run to safety as soon as possible. Seriously, good job, game.
So this is the section in which I go absolutely fanboy over the game, and I'm going to break it open and analyze it in full. Please keep in mind that there will be infinite spoilers ahead about the game and this little movie I've got right here called 2001: A Space Odyssey. If you haven't both played the game and watched this movie, please turn off the video, do that right now, and then come back and watch it. I'm not even kidding. These things are so good that I really don't want you to spoil them.
The story and characters of this game are absolutely masterful. Metal Gear Solid actually offers my absolute favorite cast of characters in any game I've ever played. Final Fantasy 3/6 also has an amazing cast, but it has a few characters that aren't incredibly memorable, such as Gogo and Umagu. This game's characters, on the other hand, are all absolutely iconic. You've got Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, Otacon, Colonel Roy Campbell, Dr. Naomi Hunter, Mei Ling, Meryl Campbell, President Kenneth Baker, Grey Fox, Revolver Ocelot, Vulcan Raven, Psycho Mantis, Sniper Wolf, Decoy Octopus, and Johnny Sasaki. I mean, for God's sakes, even a soldier who's taken a shit leaves a memorable impression. Something that I've really noticed after a few playthroughs of the game is that the characters tend to be disturbing from time to time. Otacon has to be one of the most interesting characters in the game. Why? Well, because he impersonates who we are as gamers, people who stand back in our stealth suits and watch other characters do the work while we are comfy here in our couch. I really don't think that it's coincidence that Otacon loves monster movies, Japanimation, has long hair, and wears glasses like Kojima. For both Kojima and the gamers, Solid Snake personifies who we want to be. Otacon personifies who we really are. We all want to be strong, but the thing is that not all of us go out on a limb and actually do so. Otacon is scared, and understandably so. What would anyone do in that field of battle? They would also probably piss themselves. What is so beautiful about the story is that by the end, Otacon changes his perception and stops hiding.
I'm not gonna hide anymore.
You giving up your stealth camo?
Huh? Oh yeah. You can have it.
If you really think about it, the Metal Gear is not the robot, It is actually the characters we meet throughout the game. They are all tools of politicians. By the end of the game, the Secretary of Defense straight up says this.
You two are an embarrassment from the 1970s. Our country's dirty little secret. You can't be allowed to live. Well, the bombs will be dropping soon, and you two have a lot of catching up to do. Farewell.
It is not coincidental that our role in the game is to destroy the ultimate gear of destruction, the Metal Gear Rex. This machine is a perfect illustration of where society is going if we don't stop certain things about it. These concepts are no different to those that Stanley Kubrick threw out in the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. Both these pieces of art illustrate how we are becoming tools of society. They argue that the only way to truly become free is to get rid of all the things that keep us incarcerated in our social roles. One of such things is technology. One of the interesting things about 2001: A Space Odyssey is that it was inspired by the writings of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche talks about humans having 3 stages in our life. The first is the camel that represents the social beast of burden, slaves. The second is the lion who embodies the lone warrior who defeats the dragon. And the third is the child that exemplifies new beginnings and becoming the superhuman. In both 2001: A Space Odyssey and Metal Gear Solid, there are various motifs that exemplify Nietzsche's theory perfectly. In the Jupiter mission segment of 2001, Dave and Frank are the camels. The HAL 3000 is the incarnation of technology as well as the dragon. He imprisons them and kills Frank. Dave then becomes the lion, challenges HAL and defeats him. This is the reason why at the end he becomes the Star Child. He has reached the 3rd stage of Nietzsche's theory, and by such he has become a superhuman. The exact same things happen in Metal Gear Solid. Solid Snake begins in the game as a tool of the government, and then he is tortured and imprisoned. He then challenges the dragon, which could be interpreted as Metal Gear Rex or Liquid Snake. I really consider that the dragon in this case is his own destiny. Ever since the day he was born, Snake has been a killing machine, somebody who has been told that he could not love and he could not care about anybody but he could just kill. Snake's love for Meryl challenges his perception. By the end, Snake gains a new idea about living. He becomes a superhuman and he is reborn. Maybe I'm giving too much thought into this simple video game, but when I see scenes such as the next one, I can't help but think that Kojima meant these associations to be made.
My real name is David, Otacon.
I'm Hal, Dave.
Oh, that's right. Hal. Hal and Dave. That's a good one. Maybe we should take a trip to Jupiter.
The conclusion of the game is that the Metal Gear in reality is our own paradigms. Most of us are tools of consumerism and mediocre individuals. Both Kubrick and Kojima argue that the only way to truly become free is to break our own paradigms and think differently than what we normally do. Metal Gear Solid and 2001 as art forms are perfect examples of this. The first is a game unlike any other in that it's not about mindless killing, but about stealth and avoiding combat before anything. The second is, in my opinion, the most ambitious film ever created. It tries to summarize both the current path that humanity has taken and the purpose of existence itself, and in 2 hours and a half it does a pretty fucking good job, if I may say so. Both things are ideas that come from out of the box. In the end, that is what these artists are trying to tell us, to live and always stay out of our own paradigms. Metal Gear Solid is truly a masterpiece.
While not even being my favorite game in the franchise, this is absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. I'm a sucker for philosophy and great story and characters, so I thoroughly enjoy every minute of the game. So unfortunately guys, this has been all for today. I really hope you enjoyed my first review, and if you did, click that like and subscribe button. If you didn't, click that dislike button. Give me a comment guys. Good or bad, I love to hear your ideas on how I can improve the show. I may be streaming some Legend of Zelda Wind Waker on Twitch TV, so if you want to hang out or something, click on the link below. If you're from the future, the link to the next video should be right about here. Having said all of that, this is Gatman signing off. Take care you guys.